Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today is Sue Shorman. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Irina.
So we've met over Instagram in one of those women in business groups, and the thing that blew me away about you is your productivity, because I feel like every day you're coming up with some new amazing designs, and the variety of them is just outrageous. How did you get into that side of the fiber arts business?
By happenstance, actually. So, I mean, amazingly enough, in a little group of people, not the women's group, but we all have veggie boxes delivered from a local farm, and there was a little Facebook group, and we were chatting away, and I'd got some art on my table, and somebody said, "Oh, I love that. What do you do with it?" It was an author, Sue Bentley, and so I sent her some bookmarks and she loved them, and then I got onto Instagram, and this is all I don't know, about 20 months ago, and somebody else saw my work and suggested that I contact what is it, a lampshade maker, and she loved it, and so I had no idea what to do. I had absolutely not a clue. I took photos, and she suggested I went to Spoonflower. So I went to Spoonflower, uploaded my designs, mirrored them so that they can repeat over and over again. And she bought them. So straight away I had a purchaser, I was absolutely bowled over. I was a little bit worried, I must admit, because she mostly bought Liberty prints, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not sure that mine are going to be anywhere near as good. But yeah, she sold them, and it was fantastic. So, and that's where it all started.
Do you remember that first design? What was it?
It was a mixed media piece, because that's what I really love working in. So I do layer upon layer. So here's a similar one where I've layered, I don't know if you can see that. So I've layered and layered it, and it started off with jelly prints, which is like a vegan jelly plate, which you do mono printing on. And then I just go over the top with all sorts of pens and inks, and I particularly like inks. They're absolutely amazing. The colour's so intense. I guess you know that I love the colour.
So before you were doing that, you actually also a knitter, right? When did you start knitting?
Oh, when I was about 8 or 9, I should imagine. And then I knitted on and off. I did sewing on and off. I've always loved doing crafts and making things. Always. I can't remember a time I haven't done that. Then work took over, so I didn't do a lot. And then in 2001, I caught a virus, which completely knocked me for six and left me in chronic pain. And I found that one of the things that I could do, because I was so dizzy at that time, so I couldn't move around a lot, and they didn't quite know what was wrong with me either. So it took a few years to find out. I found that the knitting just completely took my mind off it. It was just the thing that I needed at that time.
Right. It's interesting because I mentioned to you I was interviewing Rose Edmond, and she has been dealing with chronic illness like for the past 6 years, and she told me that like knitting is the only thing that helps you forget about the pain, because she's also like dealing with chronic pain all the time. And she's like, as soon as I take the needles, it's just like my mind just shifts to that and I forget that I'm in pain. And it's like miraculous quality to it.
Yes, it's I think it's I wonder if it's all sorts of creativity, because I find that the art does the same thing. So when I'm concentrating on that, I'm not thinking about any pain that I'm in. So yeah, I think any creativity is just so therapeutic.
Right. So do you remember like when you were little, like what kind of things were you knitting or sewing?
I think it was a scarf to start with, the ubiquitous scarf. And I think it was mostly scarves, and then I like doing throws and pillows and things like that. So, and then I started getting more and more complex with Fair Isle. I love Fair Isle. And then a few years ago I started crocheting because I thought I'd like to. And I got my bit of crochet, which I'm still in the process of doing here. So
beautiful.
That's going to grow, I hope. I like it because you can do a little bit at a time and take it with you.
So like you told me that you basically went on like research mode and figure out what you need to learn in order to do the prints. Was it the same with crochet? Like, are you always learning on your own? Do you like figure out resources and like do it on your own?
Yes, I've always done that. I've always I think I describe myself as an independent learner. I don't usually do tutorials. I tend to find something on the internet or a book, and I can do it from that, and I work my way through it like that. But I haven't signed up for any classes, so I don't know why that is. It might be the teacher in me.
Was that what you were doing full time, like when you were working? You were a teacher?
Yeah, I was the head of a school, so in the local city. So yeah, and then I did lots of work with the university as well.
So like as of right now, do you teach your techniques as far as printing to anybody? Or is that something you might be interested in doing?
Yes, I think so. I think I'm working my way up to it. When I get a bit more, I think I've got a slightly unusual technique. So I think I'm gradually finding the time is an issue. So I'm trying to find time to do that, but I will get there, I hope.
So like you are one of those people that like I absolutely love, because you have your full-time career, you retire, and then instead of retiring, you start completely new career, and you like go head first, and like, and you're so busy that you don't have time to like do stuff, right? Like I find it extremely inspirational, so much so that I was driving my youngest son yesterday, and he's only 16, and he was like telling me how he's not sure what he wants to study and what he wants to do in life. And I gave him example of you, and I said, here, you know, this is the person who found completely something new in her retirement. So nobody says you're supposed to know at 16 what you want to do in life. You can decide at 30, at 40, and then again at 60. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad I've inspired that. That's amazing.
well, did you see that coming? Did you ever imagine that you're going to retire and start new business?
No, I took early retirement when I was 45 from ill health, and we had a farm at the time, and so we had holiday cottages. So I did that, and eventually that became too much because of the pain levels. So we we downsized dramatically, from sort of enormous place to sort of a relatively small place now with no garden. We had 5 acres of land, and I just suddenly it was that inspiration from somebody saying, I love your art. And I've been doing it for so long. I've made journals and I've shared those on Instagram, and I just suddenly started it, and I thought I absolutely love doing it. As you can tell, I'm a bit obsessive.
So when I'm looking at your designs, there's such a huge variety of them. Like some of them are like super whimsical, almost like fairy tale like or cartoon like. Some of them are like very exact, some are romantic, some are like silly. How do you come up with all those ideas?
All sorts of things. A lot of it is the stuff I do when I'm walking in nature and find that's my inspiration. And then other things are because weekly there's a challenge on Spoonflower, and they ask you to do a certain one. So this week's challenge is this one, which is to try to make a 3D image, and yeah, mine got very whimsical.
He's
I think
actually
I
like
got
one of my favorites. He has so much stats.
it's a very naughty badger, a beaver that is. Yeah, he ripped up my ribbons.
So when you draw it, like, do you consider yourself like an amazing artist? Like, are you like great with drawing, or how do you do that part?
I'm definitely not into realism, so my skill level is nowhere near being able to do something realistic. So I think that's probably why I go for the whimsy, why I go for the detail. My son kindly tells me I doodle. So I mean, like this piece, he says this is completely mad, and it's doodling, which is, yeah, that's probably what it is, actually, doodling. So but then I've got other pieces where I've been inspired. This was inspired by going to the botanical, no, it's that way up,
Right.
going to the botanical gardens. So yeah, I wouldn't say I was a great artist. I like doing the patterns, I think.
So when you go for the walks, and you mentioned to me that you love outdoor walking, and it's like if you could spend the whole day just strolling around.
Yeah.
Do you sketch things you see? Do you take pictures of things you see? Do you just like memorize them?
I rarely sketch when I'm out, very rare. I'm too busy walking, that's probably what I do. So I take lots of photos, and it's almost as though you sort of absorb what's around you as well. So when I start drawing, I occasionally use a reference photo, but mostly it's just in my head, and then I don't normally know what the outcome's going to be. So I don't plan what the outcome is. I just put lots of ideas all together and see what I came up with.
Right. So like, what do people use those fabrics for? What did you see them as being used for?
Okay, mostly I think home decor things. Sometimes clothing. So I think this one I just showed you, I think would be great as a jacket. I sometimes wonder if actually I should be thinking about what they're going to be used for, but I don't. I just draw it and then hopefully somebody buys it.
Right.
In various forms. I really like wallpaper. I think wallpaper's I like the idea of having a really dramatic wall. So
Right. Well, if you had an enormous house with all the white walls and you had to pick one for your wallpaper, would that be difficult?
yeah, because I'd have to get my husband to agree. So yeah, I think that would be probably impossible. So we're sticking with the white walls at the moment, and then I've just got paintings on the walls. So.
What's his view of your newfound passion and your newfound career? Like, where does he stand? Is he surprised? Is he super supportive?
I think he's both super supportive and surprised. So most of my artwork has always been in journals, so it's never really seen the light of day. I think I'm just as surprised as he is as well. So, but it's a fantastic to be able to do it, and to have other people appreciate what you're doing as well is a really big boost.
Right. Do your family members, do they like ever offer you ideas of what you should do or critique on what you've done?
No. Although, yeah, I think my son keeps on saying, "Oh, that would look nice on a surfboard," or "That would look great on, X, Y, Z." So they're very supportive though, which is great. Yeah.
Right. So like, how do you decide on what you're gonna create next? Is that like, do you usually go by the assignment from that website, or do you like the ideas pop into your head and you have to design that?
Both. Yeah. So I try to go in for the weekly challenges. I don't do every one, but mostly. And then then I like to do the things that have been inspired by our traveling. So we've recently come back from a month in Europe, and I've designed, we were just staying somewhere looking over the Matterhorn, and these hot air balloons came rising out of the mist. So they're now a design. So it's all that inspiration that suddenly I just have to get it down and make it into a seamless design.
Right. Right. So how do you spend your day? Like you wake up in the morning, and then how much time do you actually spend designing or creating or knitting, or like how do you divide your day?
I was thinking about that, and I was thinking it's been since I've been doing this. It's actually we've been within COVID all the time, so our lives have completely changed because we had a farm beforehand. So there was loads of time just spent on sorting the land out and the houses out, and then since we've been here, we've renovated the whole house. So it's only within the last few months that we've actually had time to do other things. So I would say most of the time I spend designing just in the evenings, only in the evenings. Yeah.
Is that something you do every single day? Is there like ever time when you don't design?
Yeah, occasionally, not very often. 1 or 2 nights a week when I won't do anything. A lot of some of it is about uploading it onto the website and getting all the different sizes and putting all the hashtags in, and that's the bit I don't like, but it's a necessary thing. I think everybody says that, don't they? I quite like trying to think of new ways to come up with how to promote it on Instagram. I'm sure I could work harder at that actually, but there's a lot of that side of it as well as not just the designing bit.
Right. Well, when you on Instagram, like how much time do you spend there?
I don't really know. I do bits and bobs, so probably 20 minutes in the morning, and then bits and bobs during the day, and then probably another 20 minutes at night. I try not to do it too much because it's a bit like a rabbit hole, isn't it? You can disappear down it.
Do you ever feel frustrated with it, like that you are trying to do everything that they tell you to do and it's not, the response is not what you were hoping for?
Oh yes, definitely. So I was just put a video on today, and some of my videos of our walks that we do, it gets 3,000-4,000 views, and then sometimes it gets 60, and you think, I have no idea what the difference is. And sometimes some of my designs get 2,000 or 3,000 views, and then sort of 50 or 60, and I haven't worked it out. I really haven't.
Me neither, actually. Like I'm
No,
trying
good.
to
I'm
figure
really
out.
pleased about that. Oh dear, I
I'm like every
definitely
time
haven't
I'm
worked it.
surprised. Like some
Yeah,
pictures will get like so many likes and some pictures just go completely unseen, and I'm like, what's different about this one?
yeah. Oh, I'm glad it happens to you as well. Not glad in that respect, but
Right.
it's just so frustrating, isn't it?
Right. No, it's like it's definitely something I sort of gave up on. I was like, okay, like whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen because I
Yeah.
predicted. Um, what's the business side of it for you? Like, are you happy with how it goes? Do you not really care because it's sort of like retirement career, or do you treat it as a career, as the like sort of income, and then does that frustrate you, the growth rate and stuff?
No, I'm really delighted when somebody likes a piece of art that I've put onto fabric. I get really happy about it. I think if I wake my husband up any more times saying, "Oh, I've just sold something," he might go spare. But yeah, no, I'm not frustrated about it. I know it's a long haul thing. I've got 1,100 designs on Spoonflower. That's not, some of those are just size differences. They're not individual designs. And I'm just happy when somebody really likes what I've drawn, actually.
Do you
So I'm not
have like,
worried.
do you have a favorite design? Like, is it like picking a favorite child, like, or every time you make something new, it's your new favorite design?
Yeah, I think I go for that every time I make something new. Although I quite like looking back over them, and then we have this group of designers who have a comment club, and we put up 5 designs that we've got in our spoonflower shop, and we then comment on each other's designs. And so when I do that every month, I look back over what I've drawn before, and it's quite interesting seeing different designs. So I thought, and then it's like having a renewed relationship with them.
Right. Is that like your support group? Like, do you feel like you found your people on Facebook, on Instagram?
I think it's amazing, actually. I mean, our little group that we have is amazing and supportive, and then there's quite a few designers groups, and they're just such nice people. All these creative people who are just so supportive of each other, and that's my experience. I think of Instagram is that level of support and sort of like encouraging everybody to, give it a go and try new things out. I absolutely love that aspect of it.
Right. So what's on your needles nowadays? Do you knit every day as well?
No, I don't. That's on my needles, on my crochet at the moment. I think I've got, I finished this jumper, so that was all right. I think I've got one other thing on my needles, which is knitting, which is in a very, very fine mohair, which I'm knitting a bag in. But your lace is amazing. I think it's just incredible.
Right. Well, when you pick a project, do you go for the look or the difficulty, the challenge in it? Like, how do you find your next project?
Sometimes I try to go for something a little bit more simple every so often, but I like complexity, and I like to try out new things. So with my little, what is it, a beaver, that was so turning the design so that it looks as though the beavers come through the ribbons was very interesting, because what happens is as you turn it, it moves everything else. So all these little ribbons all suddenly became out of lines, and the challenge was to try to line it all up, which I enjoyed the challenge, but it did take a long time. So challenge, I think.
Do you get like frustrated by the amount of time each design takes? Do you like want to make it faster somehow just to get to the next thing?
That's a really good point, actually. Sometimes I think, yeah, that's enough. And I think that's the same with any design, is that finding how far do you need to go with it. Sometimes I look at other people's designs and I think, oh my goodness, that must have taken them days and weeks, and so sometimes I stop myself from doing that, because I think actually I think I might lose interest, need to go on to the next one.
Do you ever go back to the designs that you already published and retouch them, redo them, add a little more?
Yes, I do. Sometimes I take a little bit out. Sometimes I add in a different color. So I like the idea you can layer colors on top. So what starts out as one color, I think I've got an example somewhere here. So this started off as that color, and then you can put layers. Well, that became something else there. So you can then layer another color over the top, so it becomes a monochrome. Or you can do this where you have a design and then you aberrate it so it becomes shaded and a bit sort of glass-like. So yeah, I do go back and rethink things. Yeah.
So like when you look back at your first experiments in designing, what do you see?
Complexity and very deep colors, which I love. So some of the design challenges are requiring particular things which don't fit into my normal style. So I like going back. So this is one of the styles that I particularly like, because it's mixed media. So it's got books in there, it's got a photograph of stone, and then I've drawn on the top and put more printing on the top. So I like that style, but that doesn't always fit in with the challenges. So it's a balance between the two.
Do you think you would have been where you are today without those challenges? Like if you just had to come up with the ideas on your own without trying to like do those weekly challenges, do you think you would have progressed just as much?
I might have progressed in a different direction. I like the challenge to try to come up with something that's out of my comfort zone. Otherwise, I might have stuck with doing the printing and the mixed media. So the challenges make me draw more, I think would be the way of describing it. So I think I like the balance between the two, but then every so often I think I've had enough of doing the challenges. I want to go in my own direction, and I head off in that direction.
Right. Like you mentioned that nature gives you inspirations and ideas. How about like architecture or food or anything like different other than nature? Like, is there
Yeah.
any unusual sources of inspiration for you?
Well, I've just drawn a whole load of wine bottles. And I've drawn some. We went to a truffle festival in Italy, and so truffles have appeared in my work, and wine bottles and wine glasses. So yeah, I think anything where you can see a pattern, and then it's about trying to find a niche, because I think the Spoonflower website has over 1 million designs on it, and so before I do a design, I always search to see how many pages of similar designs there are. So if you find that there are over 100 pages of designs, I think actually I'm not even going to go there with that. So I've just recently done some flamingos, because I took some photos of flamingos whilst we were in the Camargue in November, and there's only, I think all 6 different designs are all of mine are all on the first page. So you have to find a niche in order to be found. To be honest, it's really difficult to find, and there's so many brilliant artists on the Spoonflower that you've got to find a little niche. I haven't found it yet. I'm working on it.
Do you ever wish that like you didn't do the challenge way, but just like, have you ever thought about like taking a year, let's say, and just work on one design? Like, is that even a fantasy at some point?
No, I don't think I'm that patient, actually. I think people who do licensing and license their work, they will spend months and months on one collection, but that's not the route I want to go down, because it's massively hard work, and that is another career where you've got to go backwards and forwards to meetings, and that's not the route I want to go at the moment, or ever, probably.
Right. Well, how far do you plan your year? Like, do you already have all the ideas for the 2022?
Probably not. I've probably got enough ideas to keep going for another 2 or 3 months. I was hoping to go traveling again, but it seems to have been put on hold at the moment. So yeah, I think I've got enough designs in my head for about 2 or 3 months at the moment, but I'm sure I shall come up with some more, because there's so much inspiration around, and I think if you do it daily, you get more and more inspired.
Do you ever get creative blocks where you have like zero ideas of what to do next?
Probably, and then I probably go out for a walk. So, yeah. but I haven't got a creative block at the moment. I'm in a bit of a roll at the moment, which so I'm going with it. Whilst I'm sure I will have a creative block, and then I shall go on a holiday.
Well, I was interviewing Michael Harrigan, and he is a handmaster knitter from Thailand. And he was telling me that he remembered that first time he was sitting in some coffee shop, and the ray of sun was just hitting the pavement certain way, and it gave him idea for the shawl design. Do you remember first time like looking at something and thinking I should make it into the design? Like, do you remember the moment of like conscious influence by something?
Yes, yes, I do actually, and it's a very just one example, for instance. So I had it was all about this food box that we had. I had a flyer through from them, and it was on recycled paper, and I started drawing over the top of it, and then I started putting ink over the top of it, and gradually it sort of morphed into some blueberries, which had come, they had some blueberries on the design, and it gradually worked into a sort of a blueberry design. So yeah, I think I get lots of inspiration from just everything around me, really.
Right. Do you ever have designs in your come to you in your sleep?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Yes, sometimes when I go to bed, my head is going crazy about what I'm going to do next and how I'm going to do it, and things that I need to learn in order to sort of make that happen. And yeah, and then my head just won't shut up. So yeah.
Do you have like other designers that you always watching and like getting inspired by them?
There are so many designers that I try not to look at them too much, because I don't want my work to look like theirs, if you see what I mean.
Right.
There's that fine balance between finding ideas, but also I don't want to copy anybody. So I scroll through people's designs so that I don't have them in front of me, so that I don't ever copy anybody.
Right. Well, are you like inspired by their technique? Like when you see other people's designs, do you see the mistakes in them? Do you see like how you would have improved that? Do you think how you would have made it differently? Do you just admire their work? Like what's your thought process of about other people's things?
I very often look for, because it's surface design and it requires to be in it's got to be seamless. Well, it hasn't got to be for surface, but if you're going to put it on fabric, it has to be a repeat pattern. And so I very often study how they positioned things in order to give a sense of flow in the design, so that it doesn't look bitty. So there's, you know, one motif here and one motif here, and what do they do to connect it all? So I do look for that, because I think that's probably one of the most difficult bits of it, is getting that flow between sort of motifs and then making it yeah, making it so it's seamless and it would look nice on a piece of fabric, on curtains, in wallpaper. It's fascinating watching how they connect things together.
So like if you were to give an advice on picking a wallpaper, would you pick something like most dramatic, less dramatic? Like what kind of design would you think of to recommend for the wallpaper?
I go for high drama. The more dramatic, the better, I think, because if you're going to put something on your walls, I like the idea that a very large design can look like a mural. So you end up with something like a massive piece of art on your wall, which is probably much more reasonable to put on wallpaper than it is if you've got an artist to draw an enormous piece of art for you. So yeah, high drama, I think,
Right.
of all sorts of things. I don't know. I don't know. I like some of my scenes that I've done, which are this perhaps is, so it's more of a scenic than, and that, although that's on an 8-inch swatch, that I've got it on an enormous one, so it would cover, you know, a whole piece of one sheet of wallpaper. So I find that fascinating.
Right. Is pricing difficult for you, like to decide how much you value your time on like what's going on into the each design? Because I'm sure like you can make a design that's like simpler and takes less time and it's gonna look very impressive, or you can spend days and, you know, endless days like working on something that people might not even understand why it's more expensive. Like, do you have any issue with pricing it?
Well, when I put it onto Spoonflower or Redbubble or my shop reader or Society 6, it's all done for you and you get a cut from it. But like you say, we have this constant discussion amongst designers. Is sometimes they've spent about half an hour doing a design and it sells like crazy, and other times they've spent days doing one design and they've sort of have one buyer. So I think and I think we've all come to the conclusion you have to do what you really love doing, because it's trying to find what people like is really difficult. So I've just recently sold about 10 rolls of wallpaper in a design that I was absolutely amazed at, that somebody will put this on their walls. It's great big circles with little fir trees in it. And I mean, it's going to be very dramatic and I'd love to see the result of it, but don't always get to see it. But yeah, it's always amazing actually.
How does it feel when you see, like when people, let's say, take pictures of what they did with your fabric and tag you? How does it feel to see your creations on somebody else or in somebody else's house?
It's amazing. It's such a great feeling. I got sent something last night actually. Some of my fabric would be made into this really it's called the Necessary Clutch, and she put about, I don't know, 3 or 4 different designs together, but one of them was mine. And I would never have chosen all the different designs to go together, but it just looked incredible. It was just it's a really good feeling when you see something actually in 3D. And I think that's my goal for next year, is to try to make more things from my fabric so that actually I can see it, because you don't always get to see it, because they're not always on Instagram, so they don't always tag you. So yeah, I'm gonna have a go at sewing, I think. A bit
So, like,
more.
if you met a new person in the neutral setting somewhere, and you would like try to explain about yourself in like couple sentences, would you immediately say that you're an artist? Do you still consider yourself a teacher, like retired teacher, or do you see yourself as a fiber artist?
That's a really good question. I see myself as a retired teacher, actually. Yeah, and I was always interested in art. I did the arts as my degree, so yeah. When somebody describes me as an artist, I find that really quite strange, to be honest. I'm getting slowly
I would
used to
totally
it.
describe you as an artist. Like if I were introducing you to anybody, I would introduce you as the fiber artist with multiple talents in it, actually.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How you, yeah, I think, yeah, I'm gradually, my grandson is very excited that I'm an artist, and he describes me as an artist, but yeah, I still don't see myself in that light.
Do you think like you would ever do something in collaboration with him?
Yes, probably. I've got they're in Australia at the moment. They're coming back to the UK in March to live for a while, and I've sent them some jelly plates, both of them. So we're going to have YouTube lessons and do that. So yeah, I thought I said I'd take some of his work and put it onto fabric. That's what we're going to work towards, which is quite good fun.
Right. I actually saw this mother and daughter duo, and the daughter was probably like 3 or 4, like really young girl, and she was just scribbling with pencil, and then the mom, who was a watercolor artist, would come over and like draw stuff over it, but you could
Oh
still
wow.
see the doodling of the girl
Yeah.
with all the like the, you know, the final touches of the artist. So it was very,
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think it's a such an incredible thing to be able to do, to encourage children's creativity and let them have that freedom as well to just explore. It doesn't have to be anything. I think that's what I like about abstract art. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be whatever anybody wants to look into it, which is so exciting for children as well.
right. Well, so you like, you look at your journey as the artist of prints so far, right? And do you consider yourself at the beginning of it, in the middle of it? Do you see yourself as intermediate? Do you see yourself as an expert? Like, how do you evaluate yourself?
I'm a beginner, I think, or just slightly beyond a beginner. But yeah, there's so much to learn. I think that's what's so exciting about it, is there's so many avenues that you can go, and you can twist and turn and move in all sorts of different ways. And I think, you know, it's the same with knitting, isn't it? You can just, there's so much to explore and so many things to learn that you never learn all of it. It was like when I did my doctorate, I started out and thinking, oh yes, I'll by the time I finish my doctorate, I'll know all about this. And then once I finished my doctorate, I realized I'd only scratched the surface of my subject. So yeah, it's the same thing. The more you do, the more you realize that you don't know.
Do you ever have a problem with like feeling as an expert in anything? And especially like as a teacher, I feel like it's something you've dealt with in life, like when you have to come in front of the classroom and be the expert. Do you ever get butterflies in your stomach from like not feeling you're an expert in things you're trying to teach?
Yes, I think, well, no, I never got butterflies in my stomach, but I always used to approach it from the fact that we're exploring learning together. So if we explore learning together, you become learners together rather than I'm telling you what to do. And I think that's a slightly different way of looking at it, which is why I like this sort of this creativity aspect, is that there's so much to explore that you can explore it with other people, which is fantastic.
So what's your hope for next year? Like, what's your plans, dreams, and ideas for next year?
I think I'd like to sew. So I'd like to sew some of my things up. I like the idea of doing embroidery on top of my art, and so on top of the, so I've done some of these little things where I've done embroidery on the top, and I like that. So it's about those layers, isn't it? It's about the textures. I love texture, which is probably why I like knitting and crochet and all the layers that I do in the art. It's texture, I think.
Right. I mean, I think that's brilliant idea, actually. That's gonna add the whole new level of complexity to your designs. And I think it's also like that's the niche you're looking for, because you are such a diverse fiber artist that you can bring all different elements to your designs, not just the design, but you can, like if you do embroidery on top of it, that brings you into a different category.
Yeah, I was looking last night at some journals, you know, journal covers, and I was thinking how lovely to bring all those different fibers and, you know, knitting fibers, embroidery silks, and on top of my art in order to put it onto journal covers. So I think that's the sort of route I'm thinking I would like to go down, mainly because I liked making journals. I used to make my own journals, and so that's sort of adding another dimension to it.
Well, I saw some of your journals that you posted on Instagram. I mean, they're beautiful. Like I would spend hours just looking through them and just like, do you do that? Do you go back to them and just like scroll and seek new inspirations in your old journals?
Yes, it's one of my fellow designers said to me, I'm looking forward to seeing some of those designs in your journals, on your designs. I said, yes, I must remember to do that and not move on to the next thing. But when I was thinking about how nice that would be to have journal covers that have all those layers of all, you know, embroidery, wool, texture, it would be just great. So I think I might go down that route this year. I might go down another one the following year.
I mean, I cannot wait to see your new designs in the upcoming year. And like, I always love seeing new pictures that you post on Instagram. And I'm always surprised by the variety of your designs, by the different techniques and different, like completely different motifs. And like, you think like that the person would have certain style, and I don't see that style in your designs because they look like everything and anything is possible in your imagination. And in my book, you are a fiber artist. So
thank you.
thank you so much, Sue, for being my guest today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm glad that
Thank you. I'm glad it worked this time.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Marina. Bye-bye.
So I'm so glad